Hi and welcome to the Crafty Co. Today I'm going to show you how to make a crochet oval base. These can be used in lots of different projects, bags or crochet pods or anything that requires that shape in its base. I've used this method for the base of this bag. Rather than creating the bag in a round and having it flat or creating two halves and sewing them together, adding a base to it will give you more room on the inside. I'm going to show you a really easy method to create this base. All that you need is your crochet hook, yarn, pair of scissors and a wool darning needle, and ideally 4 stitch markers. They can all be the same, but I like to use 3 the same and 1 different. So let's get started. Let me just explain a little bit of the process here. At each end you'll see a semicircle, and if I were to put those together to form a circle, we're going to be working the increase in these sections only. We have a rectangle in the middle, and it's this rectangle that determines whether you make a long thin one or a short wider one. The amount of stitches in this rectangle will always be the same, so it will always have the same amount of stitches down each side. The only thing that changes each time is we will increase in this semicircle section at each end. The method will always be the same whether you create the long thin base or the short fatter. We do the increase in these sections, and then this section here will always have the same amount of stitches, and this one we have the increases here, and this section will always have the same amount of stitches. Grab your stitch markers, your hook and your yarn. You can have them all different or all the same, but I like to have one that is different from the rest. This one here will indicate the start of my round. As mentioned, this section here will always have the same amount of stitches down each side. In most tutorials, you'll find that you do a long chain down the center to start the base. I start with a magic ring, and then I do a chainless row across the center until I have the amount of stitches that I want in the length here. We create a magic ring, and chain 1. The chain 1 doesn't count as a stitch, but it will give our first double crochet something to sit up again. I'm working in UK double crochet stitches all the way throughout. If you're using American terms, it will be a single crochet. 1 double crochet into the magic ring. And insert your stitch marker. Insert it under the V, and you will see that I have put the different coloured one here, and this is so I know that when I get back to this particular one, I will always be back at the beginning of the round. I'm now going to work the first section, which is going to be the increase section. Again, I'll bring you this in to show. So these semicircles are the increase section, and I'm working that little section here, and it consists of 3 double crochets. We've worked 1, we work 2 more. When you've worked the 3rd one, you pop another stitch marker in. The first and the last stitch marker will indicate the increase section. We now work the center stitches to create our rectangle in the middle. I'm going to do 8 stitches in mine, but you can do as many as you want. So that will depend if you do a long thin oval or a narrower, fatter oval. We've done our 3 stitches in our increase section. We need to add one more in so that we can start our chain. Insert the hook, yarn over and pull through. The chainless chain is worked in 2 steps. The first step is to create the chain for the next stitch to be worked in, and the second step is to create the double crochet. So we yarn over and pull through 1, and that is a chain for our next stitch to be worked into. And then we go ahead and yarn over and pull through 2 as you would with a double crochet stitch. That's our first stitch. If I turn this to the side, I can see that chain sitting at the bottom. So I insert under the V of that chain and yarn over and pull through. I have 2 loops on the hook. The first step is to create the chain for the next stitch to be worked in. So I yarn over and pull through 1. Don't pull too tight with these stitches because you need to be able to get the hook under them to create the next chain. And then we yarn over and pull through 2 for our double crochet. We've now worked 2 stitches. We don't count the stitch that has the stitch marker in. That's the end stitch of the increase section. So we have 1, 2 in this center chain. Go under the V of the chain we created, yarn over and pull through. 2 loops on the hook. Work step 1, which is yarn over to create a chain, and step 2 is yarn over and work the double crochet stitch. We're not working at all in this magic ring. That was simply to start the round to put our increase section in. I'm going to pull this a little bit tighter, but for the moment I don't want to pull it too tight or it's going to compromise the size of that first stitch. We've got 3 stitches in our chain. Insert under the V, yarn over, pull through. Step 1 is to make a chain for the next stitch, and step 2 is to work the double crochet stitch. That's 4. Insert under the V of that chain, yarn over, pull through. First step, yarn over, pull through 1, and second step is yarn over, pull through 2 to create the double crochet. I have 5 stitches and I need to work 3 more. Insert under the V, yarn over, pull through. First step is to create the chain, second step to work the double crochet. First step to create the chain, second for the double crochet, and we do 1 more to create our 8th chain. We now worked the side stitches. We have the increase section at the end and the side stitches, and now we want to work the increase section at the other end. Each section has 3 stitches. So we need to make another chain so that we can work those 3 stitches in. If we work back into this one, then that would become the first stitch of our increase, and then we'd only have 7 side stitches. So however many stitches that you want, we are always going to work 1 more so that we can put the increase stitches in there. So we go under the V, yarn over, pull through, create the chain, then the double crochet, and that's the first stitch of our increase. Pop a stitch marker in here, and then we go back into that chain again with our second but this time it's a double crochet. We don't need to work a chain, and we go back in that same stitch a third time for our third double crochet. We pop a stitch marker in there, and now we have our 2 increase ends and half a side of our stitches. To complete the round, I'm going to do a double crochet in each of the opposite chain stitches to the double crochets along this side. We don't work in the chain that's got the increased stitches, so in the next one we go under that V and work 1 double crochet. We go under the V in the next stitch and work a double crochet. And as I have 8 stitches along my side, I'll be working 8 stitches, and each time I'm going under the V. I want to pick up both loops, and this stops any gaps along the center. This first round is the trickiest because at the moment we haven't secured that magic ring, so it's a bit wobbly. I'm going to check how many I've done. I don't count the stitch that has the marker in. That's the last stitch of that increase section. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I work my final in that last chain, and then I'm back to the stitch marker. I like to push that strand through to the back and pull it a little bit tight. We don't want to pull it all the way at the moment, because until we've worked back into that first stitch, we don't want to lose sight of it by pulling that magic ring too tight. That's the first round complete, and we've got the foundation that we can build on each round. The 2 end sections, each end has 3 stitches in this increase section, and that's where we're going to be working the increases each time. And this center section has 8 stitches each side, and every time I work around there will be 8 stitches along this section. This doesn't change at all. It's a bit like working an amigurumi as we're working in the round, but we are creating a flat oval. If I bring this face in just to show you, these are our increase sections. The first round there was 3 stitches, and each time we work in this section we will increase 3 stitches. This side also started with 3 stitches, and again we will increase 3 each time we work in that section. To help keep it circular, we stagger our increases. This base will show you if I increased in the same place each time as opposed to staggering. You can see that this end is starting to form half a hexagon, and that's because we're increasing in the same place each time. In this end, we're staggering our increases. So I'll increase at the beginning of the sequence, and I'll explain that in a moment, on one round, and then the middle of the sequence the next, then the beginning and the middle, and so on. And it turns it into a much rounder shape. As we have 3 stitches in each end and we're increasing 3 stitches, that means we will work 2 stitches in each of these stitches between the markers. Carefully remove the first one, keeping an eye where that stitch is, because remember at the moment this one is attached to that magic ring and we don't want to lose sight of it. And we work 2 double crochet in the same stitch to work the increase. Once you've done the first double crochet, pop your stitch marker back in to indicate the first stitch of the round. To work the increase, double crochet in exactly the same space as you worked the first one. Increase into the next stitch, working 2 double crochet in there, and finally increase into the third stitch. 1 and 2, and you put the stitch marker into the last stitch. So now we have turned 3 stitches in this increase section into 6. It's safe for you to go ahead and pull the magic ring close now. We're working the side section, and that will be the number of stitches you have chosen to do down your side. Remember, for me it's 8. I work 1 double crochet into each of these 8 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I know I've worked correctly because I'm now at the next stitch marker. Remove the stitch marker and work an increase. 1 double crochet, insert the stitch marker back in, increase by working another double crochet into the same stitch, 2 double crochet into the next stitch, 1, 2, and finally 2 double crochet into that third stitch. 1 and 2 into the same stitch, inserting the stitch marker into the last stitch worked. So now we have our 2 end sections that started with 3 and now have 6. The next round will have 9, the following 12, then 15 and 18 in each of these sections. And that's what creates not only the increase in size of the base, but also that gives it the shape at the ends. The last thing to do on this round is work the stitches along the side. Remember, I have 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I'm now back at the different shape stitch marker, which indicates the start of my round. The following rounds are worked in exactly the same way. These side sections will always have the amount of stitches you've chosen for your side, and each time you will increase 3 stitches at each of these end sections. In the round just worked, we increased in every stitch. This time we're going to increase in every other stitch. We do this 3 times, and if we think of each time that we do that as a sequence, as we go further round and create a bigger and bigger base, you'll learn to understand what the sequences do. The first round was no increase. The second round, we increased in every stitch. In the third round, we'll increase in every other stitch. When we've done this round, the sequence will change slightly. So let's work this one. Take that stitch marker out, work every other stitch with an increase. Let's do the increase first. So in that first stitch, we work 1, pop the stitch marker back in, and work another in the same stitch, and then work 1 double crochet in the next. So that's our first sequence of increase, 1 double crochet in next. We need to do that a further 2 more times. Increase into the next one, that's 1 and 2 in the same stitch, and 1 double crochet in the next. The second sequence and the third sequence, increase in that stitch and 1 double crochet in the next. And pop your stitch marker back in. One double crochet in each of the side stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're at the next stitch marker for our increase section. Remove the stitch marker, and the sequence for this round is increase in the first stitch, we've done 1, we do 1 more and 1 double crochet in the next. That's the first sequence. Increase in the first stitch and 1 double crochet in the next, the second sequence. Increase in the first stitch and 1 double crochet in the next. And replace the stitch marker. Even though I've been doing this for a long time, I do like to keep using the stitch markers for each round. If you go along this edge and find that when you get to this stitch marker, you've either done too many or you haven't done enough, you can simply frog it back to this stitch marker and work it again. Work our side stitches, 1 double crochet in each, we've worked 8, and now we're back to the beginning stitch marker. For each of these 3 sequences at either end, we did the increase in the first stitch of the sequence. For this round, we're going to do the increase in the middle stitch of the sequence. So for this round, we work 1 double crochet, insert the stitch marker, increase in the next stitch, 1, 2 in the same stitch, and then 1 double crochet. That's the sequence for this round. 1 double crochet, increase in the next stitch, 1 double crochet. That's sequence 2. And finally the third sequence, 1 double crochet, increase in the next stitch, and 1 double crochet. And replace the stitch marker. Work your side stitches, 1 double crochet in each, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Work the sequence for this round of 1 double crochet, place the stitch marker, increase in the next stitch, 1 double crochet. First sequence, 1 double crochet, increase into the next stitch, 1 double crochet. Second sequence, 1 double crochet, increase into the next, and 1 double crochet to finish, removing the stitch marker, working the stitch, and then replacing the stitch marker. Work the side stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So now we've done the next round. We increased in this last round in the middle of the sequence, and now we're going to go back to increasing at the beginning of each sequence. Increase, that's 1 and 2 in the same stitch, and 1 double crochet in each of the next 3. 1, 2, 3. First sequence, increase in the next, 1, 2, and 1 double crochet in each of the next 3. Second sequence, 1 double crochet, 2 double crochet, so that's our increase, and 1 double crochet in each of the next 3. That's the third stitch. Remove the stitch marker and replace it with the new stitch formed. Work the side stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We come to the second increase section of this round, and I know it is because I have that different coloured stitch marker here. We work that same sequence of increase in the first stitch, 1, and 2 in the same stitch, 1 double crochet in each of the next 3. First sequence, increase in the first stitch, 1 double crochet in each of the next 3. Second sequence, and third sequence is increase in the first stitch and 1 double crochet in each of the next 3. removing the stitch marker, working that last stitch of the sequence and replacing the stitch marker. And to complete the round, we work 1 double crochet in each of the side stitches. And that is how the base works. Once you've mastered the technique and method, you can continue for as many rounds as you like. These would be great for making table mats or plant pot mats. If you want to do either of those, you keep going round and round and round until it's as big as you want it. And then to finish off, you would work a slip stitch into that first stitch of the round and sew all your ends in. If you want to turn this into a bag, or maybe a little storage pouch, get the base to the size that you want it to be and then stop increasing. And all you have to do is work 1 stitch into each of the stitches in the round. And because we're not increasing, it has nowhere to go but upwards, and that's when you would create the cylinder. If you are going to do this, just bear in mind that it does take a couple of rounds for it to start going up. So do the base slightly smaller than you think you need. Keep your eyes peeled for the tutorial to turn this base into a super cute bag. So head on over to the YouTube channel to find lots of handy tutorials, and I'll see you soon.